Hello there. Speaking today on the subject of sex as a need. Is sex a need in relationship? This is Shauna White, heartfelt intimacy coach, helping people in relationship to experience the biggest form of love possible for the human being, which is darn huge. Okay, so on the subject of sex as a need, first I want to say that I put a post out a couple days ago about this topic, and I want to thank everyone who contributed their perspective and their experience. This is a very sensitive topic and an important area of intimate partnership, perhaps in some ways could be looked at as a defining characteristic of intimate partnership. Ooh, excuse me. And not so easy to sort out. So I want to bring you my perspective on this. The first thing I want to say is that there are no rules in life except for do no harm. So what I mean by that is that there's no one way that relationships should look. They accept that they should be what both people in the relationship want it to be. So another truth, another simple truth, okay? What we do gives us an experience of self. And so if the way we conduct ourselves is primarily focused on the physical, we will have a very physical perception of self, a physical experience of self. The range of human experience can go physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And spiritual, by spiritual, I'm not talking about religious. I'm not talking about reading spiritual material, although that's something that people may do as a way to further their journey of expansion into the spiritual experience. But when I talk about the spiritual experience, I am talking about experiencing the deepest part of self. You go inside to find it. This is based on my experience and the experience of everyone that I've worked with and everyone that I've studied alongside and everyone I've studied from. So it's a science in the sense that it's a repeatable experience for everyone. Everyone who actually does the work to go to these places inside themselves. So when we connect deep enough inside ourselves, we can open an inner connection to the energy of divine love. This is a firsthand experience of the divine, and it's part of us. It's the deepest part of us. So if you want to experience yourself that deeply and that fully, then it matters how you do what you do throughout your day. So understanding that, now let's look at the subject of sex. Sex, okay, dictionary definition of sex. I think that when people think of sex, they think of possibly a range of experiences that includes how they feel, but the word sex actually points to the physical act. Just because there's sex, it does not mean that there's intimacy. Intimacy is a word that I use to point to the experience of connection that we can feel. We can feel it energetically, and it has an emotional quality as well. But most importantly, it's feeling another person's energy energetically, our own energy and their energy. Feeling both of those, and maybe they mingle and maybe they don't. both qualify as an experience of intimacy. But when it comes to intimacy with a partner, it's really about feeling your energy, feeling your partner's energy, and feeling those energy fields, your energy fields, merge. That's like the energetic side of sexual intimacy. And it doesn't have to be sexual intimacy. It could be just an experience while you're hugging. But that depth of intimacy naturally leads to, often naturally, not all the time, but leads to a natural desire for both partners to enter the sexual experience of physical affection, because the energy is so yummy. It makes the sex fall into place in a very natural way. So, so out there in the relationship world, oh, okay, wait a minute. Let me get back on track. Sex. What is sex? Okay, right. Yes. So here's the thing, right? Out there in the relationship world, there's this idea about relationship, that relationship is about meeting each other's needs. And it's kind of a transactional model of relationship. I would say that relationship is about fulfilling authentic inspiration. Because the reason that I'm in a relationship with my sweetheart is not because he fills my needs. I'm in a relationship with him because my heart always says yes. When I ask, that place of inner connection inside me about this relationship, and I have asked, honestly, I have asked, because it's a long distance relationship, and that comes with its own challenges. And so when it's felt challenging, I have said, is this right for me? Is this right for me? Is this right for me? And every single time, the core of my being resonates with this feeling of rightness. That's why I'm in that relationship. That's the best reason to be in a relationship, because that's an inspired motivation. And no matter what the relationship looks like, if you can trust God inside yourself, which is what I'm talking about here, that relationship is going to give you tremendous gifts for your growth. Because that's what the divine wants for us to grow and expand bigger and deeper into the knowledge of self as love and as a partner with love. And I'm talking about divine love there. And so if our relationship is a vessel for that, that's incredibly powerful and beautiful. And that is something that I support people in to the best of my ability, but it has to start with, are you in the right place? And then I can help people find the gifts in case the ship is sailing off in the wrong direction or coming up against lots of storms. I can help to iron out the storms. Anyway, getting back on topic here. So, okay. So let's talk about this word need, right? I mean, need, you can't really understand whether something is a need or not unless you put it into the context of what is it for, right? If I am building a structure with nails, I need a hammer in order to build that structure, right? So the same is true in relationship. What is the relationship for? If you understand what the relationship is for, then you know whether you need something to accomplish the purpose of the relationship. So there may be people out there who are very happy with the idea that the relationship is for satisfying their emotional needs. Now, sex is a physical act, but it is not a physical need. So if sex is a need, it's really more of an emotional need. So maybe two people or more than two people, who knows, have gathered together because they have a purpose, a shared purpose together, and that purpose is to have sex. In which case, in the context of that relationship, they need to have sex because that is what they are there to accomplish, right? I I am not a person who cares to accomplish sex for sex's sake. I am not a person who cares to accomplish sex as emotional gratification for the physical act. I am a person who wants to experience all the dimensions of my being. I want to experience myself physically, energetically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And spiritual is the most important for me, that inner connection with the divine, because there were a great many years when I experienced myself in all those ways except for the spiritual way. And I was not happy. I was very uncomfortable in my own skin, and I felt like relationship was such a struggle. There was all this push and pull and trying to figure out, where do I fit? And that's kind of normal in relationship when you're unmoored regarding that inner connection. Because if we are not setting our inner connection with divine love as our North Star for why we do things and what we do and why, then what North Star is there except for what makes us emotionally comfortable? And what makes me emotionally comfortable is different than what makes him emotionally comfortable. Whoever him is, I naturally find myself in partnership with a him. So that's why I use that pronoun. So a lot of the push and pull in relationship comes from people feeling emotionally, they've got their own inventory of what makes them feel emotionally good. Their definition of what makes them feel emotionally good is different than what their partner's definition of what makes a person feel or makes them feel emotionally good. And so you try to work out, how do we walk this walk together in a way that I'm getting my bullet points met of what makes me feel emotionally good, and you're getting your bullet points met of what makes you feel emotionally good. And that's the struggle when those things don't really work together. That's the struggle. So you just, journal overview. There's a lot more nuance when you actually descend into a specific experience that you're trying to sort out. But so for me, when I found how to connect with the energy of divine love in the core of my being, I suddenly felt natural in my own skin. And then I had to figure out, okay, how does this work in relationship? This is no longer just a relationship between me and another person. This is now a relationship between me, my sacred heart, and another person. And so I had to come to understand how that works and develop a whole new set of relationship skills, because all my relationship skills were previously based on how do I be seen and how do I fit into somebody else's definition of love so that they love me without losing my authentic self. That's really the struggle that I was in for so many years. And when I successfully entered an inner relationship with divine love, it changed everything. And it changed to, how do I walk as an expression of love in this moment? What is this inner connection guiding me to do that feels right for me? And how do I honor that? And prioritizing the same for my partner. So first of all, we have a relationship because that inner connection says, ooh, yes, this relationship feels right. And then on top of that, I continue to prioritize my whole being from the core out. And I prioritize the same for my partner. So I treat him and support him in a way to allow for his natural expression and also support him in finding that inner alignment with love for himself. That's just the most beautiful thing. For me, it's the most important thing for me. And if doing that actually caused us somehow to separate, I would be sad, but I would be on board because I know that that's the most important thing for happiness. And so is sex a need, right? I want to experience sex in my relationship, but for me, sex by itself, the physical act, is a distraction from the quality of self I want to experience and grow in, because I want to experience myself not just physically, but and not just emotionally, but also spiritually. So I say, for me, sex is not a need. Intimacy is a need. Even when I feel sexual energy that makes me want to initiate with my partner, it's still not a need. It's an energy coming up. That's a possibility for how we might experience each other and explore being together in that moment. But it doesn't have to go that way. The most important thing is feeling alignment in self. And alignment is deeper than sexual energy. I don't need to align myself with sexual energy. I align myself with the love and the core of my being. And if sexual energy is part of that, and it's something that he can connect with too, then we get to explore that energy together. But because that's my choice about how to show up for sex, sex is not a physical experience for me. It's an experience. It's a multidimensional experience. It's an experience that deepens my full, deeply spiritual, multidimensional experience of self, which is the experience of self that makes me happy. So I think when it comes to sex, what people need, from my perspective, what people need is they need to be honored in a way that matches what they want to experience. Like, what's the activity? Are we building a structure with nails? Then we need a hammer. So my primary focus, because it makes everything work in a way that flows, my primary focus is, okay, how do I show up to this experience from a place that's integrated with my inner connection with divine love? And how do I show up to this experience? And how do I show up to that experience with a place in a way that's connected with my inner connection with divine love, right? So for me, when it comes to sex, my need is to have a full multidimensional experience. And if I am with a partner who wants to focus physically around sex and to put pressure on me because he's got an emotional desire to be gratified in that way. So for him, it's mental, emotional, and physical, and not spiritual. The way that energy feels coming at me hurts my relationship with my spiritual heart. I'm not saying I'm a victim and he's hurting me, but I'm saying that if I entertain that, he makes a proposition. I should read you the post that this actually inspired to begin with. I won't read it to you, but it was, a woman was asking a question because her boyfriend, basically he loves oral and he wants oral every morning, and she's been trying to accommodate him, but it's a bit much for her. And her final sentence was, we've discussed it and it's his need. So what do I do? So she's stuck. She's stuck because she's looking at relationship like relationship is this transactional agreement that it's about fulfilling each other's needs. And he has this need. He's got a high sex drive and he wants oral every morning. So he's got this need and she's got to fill it. If she doesn't fill it, then she risks him going elsewhere or breaking up with her or not loving her. So she's stuck in a place where she thinks she's got to perform for him. And that dynamic is going to interfere with her ability to surrender deeper inside herself without any performance in order to feel an inner connection with divine love and discover what her authentic expression is in each moment, her authentic purpose in this world. And it's big. And maybe she's not asking herself those questions, and that's okay. It's her life. She doesn't have to ask those questions. But If you're asking yourself those questions, what's my purpose? What's my authentic expression in each moment? And you're with a partner who has a high sex drive and just wants you to get them off because they have a physical need, which is actually an emotional need, that's at odds with your desire to experience yourself as a multidimensional being, because it's a more base perspective, and what you do creates your self experience. So if you actually entertain that and agree to take the action of doing the physical act of sex because somebody has an emotional need for a physical experience, and you love that person, but this is not about divine love at this point, this is about emotional attachments, then it's going to keep you down. It's going to give you experiences where you think you have to do things in order to be loved, which is not the way divine love works. And where you start to feel like you are just a physical being with thoughts and emotions. And you're more than that. You're a divine creation, but you have to act like it in order to experience it. And I don't mean act like it, like fake it. I mean that you have to take the time to feel that inside yourself, find how to feel that inside yourself, and then honor it. And when you do that, then you will know yourself as this multidimensional being with a divine essence. And that's such a high experience of self. So I stand against this idea out there that relationship is about partners meeting each other's needs, which is touted as a very conscious way to go about relationship. Like we're adults here. We're doing the, everybody has needs and I want to accommodate my partner, and that's loving somebody. It's just not high enough. For me, it's throwing people off the trail of what's really important. Because there are a lot of factors that affect whether someone is available to show up for intimacy and sexual intimacy. And I'm using those words together because I do mean the whole energetic package that leads to that expression of physical affection. So physical vitality, hormonal changes, there's how busy somebody is, whether it's on their radar to pull their energy out of the I'm doing things mode into like breathing and relaxing and feeling their partner. Like all of this sets the tone for the energy of intimacy to even have room to grow, to cultivate in that moment. And then when the energy cultivates to a certain kind of a boiling point, like you can't wait to be physically, you can't wait to have sex because the energy is just so hot and yummy. So yeah, right. Okay. So there's a lot of things that affect that, but if we just isolate whether there's whether there's energetic intimacy or not, right? There's a lot of discussion out there of people talking about, I haven't had sex with my partner in a month or in 5 years or whatever it is going on in that relationship. I've talked to my partner about it. I've said that sex is a need and they're not doing anything about it. And I feel like this idea that relationship is about partners meeting each other's needs is throwing people off the trail. The sex is missing because the intimacy is missing. If the intimacy was there, if you knew how to cultivate the intimacy, then the sex would come naturally. So it's just besides the point to have a conversation with your partner that I need sex. Do you really need sex? That's okay. Look, if you want to have the physical experience of self, that self is an animal with instinctual needs, then have at it. But if you want a bigger experience of what it is to be human and what it is to be in relationship that has a divine element to it, then the ask has to be different. It can't be about sex. It's got to be about intimacy. And that starts with intimacy with yourself and sharing that intimacy with your partner. So that is my dissertation on the subject of sex as a need. And if you are, if you want that big multidimensional experience of self in your relationship, and you're struggling with issues and you're not sure how to get from where you are to that big, beautiful place where intimacy and sex flows naturally, but more than that, your relationship just continues to break your heart open more and more and more. I didn't mean to say break your heart. Break your heart open. Deepen your levels of trust and heal your pains around love because of how beautiful and trustworthy the love you have with your partner is. That's all possible. But in my experience, it's really the most possible. I'm not going to say it's only possible but it's the most possible and the most beautiful when the relationship is predicated upon your interconnection with divine love. And that's exactly what I help people with. So if you're interested in that, if you want to see what that looks like for you, then send me a private message and let's have a conversation and we'll see what makes sense. And otherwise, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were about what I've shared. So please put your thoughts in the comments. Okay, thank you so much.